Guys, I'm giving it all up to become a digital artist. This might be my last stream. Welcome to PocketBased episode 23. I'm your host, they call me Cap, and this channel exists for you, the guy, the girl with the idea. Maybe your programming chops are so-so, but that doesn't matter because we stream live programming sessions right here every day. I'm the author and maintainer of 3 important open source projects. One is PocketHost, the hosting platform for PocketBase. Another is PocketPages, server-side rendering for PocketBase. Oh, 69 stars. And the third project is the real-time multiplayer game that we have been working on named Kingdom. Every episode, we add a little more to Kingdom and we look directly and in detail at how it's done. So you can follow along on stream or you can contribute to the open source project. It's a great way to get started and learn how to ship things fast. Don't forget too, we've also got a Discord community with over 1,500 members. They're from all walks of life and skill levels, so you're bound to make a friend. So if you're ever on Discord, stop on by. We'll make you feel right at home. In today's episode, we talk about nasty bugs affecting Kingdom, cool features that we added to Kingdom, but most importantly, we talk to Vaughan Ling, the founder of HEAVYPAINT.com. Vaughan is a traditional and digital media artist, and he decided he was gonna make an app about it. And that's exactly what he did. He's got a web version, he's got a mobile version of HEAVYPAINT. And besides being just a super cool dude, he made something and now it exists. And it's good. So I hope you can pick up some things from our conversation together. Are you guys ready? Let's go. Later in this episode, we're going to have Heavy Polly from the Discord channel. He's going to join on stream. Heavy Polly makes a web paint app powered by PocketBase and PocketHost, but not PocketPages yet. Before we get into that, let's do a quick review of Kingdom. In this last round of Kingdom development, we have been fixing a ton of bugs that only come up in the multi-user environment. As you can see, we still have some rendering bugs happening in here. This stuff is called jank, and it shows up anytime the UI thread is blocked for too long. And generally that means that we have some rendering inefficiencies. Reactive apps are particularly susceptible to this, and since we are using Alpine.js, which is a reactive framework, we have to look out for this kind of stuff. But there were bigger bugs to tackle first. The main bug, and I'm still not sure it's solved, is sometimes players would switch sessions with each other. I stupidly posted in the PocketBase forum about this, and Ghani got really mad at me. Your behavior is extremely frustrating, he says. Apologies to Ghani. I really was not thinking when I posted a security issue publicly. I didn't imagine it would be a PocketBase issue, which I still don't think it is. But you're absolutely right. Had it been a PocketBase issue and I posted this security vulnerability publicly, it could have given attackers a potential advantage before you had a patch out. So I'm sorry, I realized my mistake. I was probably trying to do too many things at once, and I just posted without thinking because I wanted to get some help with my code. I had exhausted all of my own internal resources. I had traced my code all the way down to what looked like potentially a problem with PocketBase, but at the same time, I knew that it was very likely my code. Sorry. So I tracked down that bug, and here in PocketPages, I made a commit to fix concurrency, which is broken when EJS caching is enabled. I wrote a little script to just hammer the website with tons of requests to see if it could break concurrency. And in fact, it did, and it's all one little caching thing here that wasn't even right in the first place. Caching was only enabled during dev mode. That doesn't even make sense. So not only was it wrong, but it was really wrong, and in a way that only shows up in the wild. I just got an alert that I need to restart PocketHost. Looks like there's another little outage. We've been having these outages today. There was a bad one from 8:32 to 9:30, and the only reason is because I wasn't getting notices on my phone, so I didn't know to reset it. So this is why there's no service level agreement yet. I can't say this never happens, but it is super rare. Like this guy says, longest downtime for a while. That's true. But yeah, we do have some downtime sometimes. And I do my best, but I'm just one guy. So anyway, we fixed this PocketPages bug, and it seems to have, I hope, fixed the concurrency bug so that sessions are not getting swapped between users, because users were changing colors and not knowing why. And we had so many bugs at once. Probably there are still 2 or 3 bugs in here, but they were all interacting, so it was hard to isolate them. So I finally isolated one, I think. You can tell by the look on my face, kind of a cringy day for me today. I caused downtime on PocketPost. I posted publicly about a security issue that I shouldn't have. I've been fighting multiple bugs that have interactions with each other in Kingdom. So kind of an embarrassing day for a programmer, but programming life, I guess. But the good news is there will be better days ahead because I do think I fixed a critical issue here. And it led to some research about a long-standing issue with PocketHost where instances were hanging in some kind of way that new requests would come in and not even time out. They would just hang there indefinitely. And I think I made some headway on that one too. Moving on to stuff that's more fun, I did add a chat to Kingdom, and this is pretty fun. This actually ups the fun factor quite a bit, especially when you're not sitting in the same room. I have done some same room playtesting, and that's fun too, but now you can play online and collaborate with people. The other thing we added, if you look real close here, you can see a strength indicator, a relative strength indicator. Watch this cell right here. If the strength is under 10, nothing happens. When it crosses the 10 threshold, you see you get a green dot. That's got at least 10 strength. If you cross the 50 threshold, there, it just turned yellow for 50. And if it's over 100, it's that red dot color. So I hope this will help people assess whether it's even smart to attack a certain cell or not. That's been kind of mysterious so far, a little bit too mysterious. You don't really know the strength of the opponent that you're taking on. So I wanted to give at least a vague indicator of strength. Taking a look at the commit history between version 9 and version 10, a lot of chores, a lot of little enhancements, optimizing code, adding little notices, just polish things to help make the game a little more playable. And if you look through this, you can see that the two big features are chat and cell strength indicators. Now, another way to do that is to go into the changelog and we can see feature. Wait, 3 features. Players are awarded new shards at the beginning of each round. Oh, I forgot about that one. Yeah, so when the round changes over, you get 10 new shards, I think it is, something like that. This makes the game playable. Up until this point, when the round ended, you didn't get any new shards and it kind of wasn't playable. Now it keeps you going. I love this tool here called change sets. If you haven't checked out change sets, this helps you maintain change logs along with your Git commits. It's a very nice tool. PocketPages is up to version 11.8. A few bug fixes, a few enhancements here and there, nothing that we really need to talk about. I did update the upgrading instructions because this part was out of date and difficult for people to follow. I think those are the major updates there. So we're going to go ahead and close out this stream because Heavy Poly is coming on tonight. So we'll be back then. Okay, Vaughan, I think I've met you. Well, it might be a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah, something like that.
On Discord? It might be that long.
I started working on HEAVYPAINT, so yeah, about almost 2 years.
Yeah. How did you find me?
Well, I was watching the Firebase video, or not Firebase, you know what I'm talking about, the YouTube channel where they show tech stuff. Fireship video on PocketBase, and I was like, wow, that's pretty cool and slick. And then I was playing with it. And I'm a little bit of a dummy when it comes to hosting, self-hosting. So I found you and PocketHost, and then I just gave it a shot. And
yeah, that's how I found PocketBase too. I saw that Fireship video, however long ago that was, that original one, the ultimate backend for your side hustle or something like that. And I was trying to find something that I liked better than Firebase and Supabase, and PocketBase seemed, to have a lot going for it just based on that Fireship video. So then I went and tried it, and I quickly figured out, like, oh crap, like this is nice, but you have to host it yourself, right? And so then I thought, well, I don't want to do that. I don't want to have to like set up a server every time I have a little project that I'm cooking up or something like that. So I made that first little version of PocketHost really just for myself. I wasn't really thinking anybody was going to do much with it, but people pretty much instantly liked it and, signed up for it and stuff. Like it grew to 10,000 users pretty quick. So
oh yeah. Over the course of how long was that? Would you say?
Uh, I bet. I mean, let's see. I could do some kind of like database query on it, but it seemed like it only took a few months for like a lot of people to flood in, and then it kind of leveled out after that. I think right now it's like growing at like 500 users a month or something, or it was, but now I put up a hard paywall, so you have to put in your payment information even to like run an instance or anything. So that slows down how many people sign up. But so far it's been overall, it's been better like financially for the service. So I think I'm going to keep doing it. But yeah, I think you were kind of one of the early arrivers, early adopters of PocketHost, and I'm pretty sure we just started chatting first on Discord, in the Discord channel. Yeah. And so I remember
you were so responsive on Discord. It was kind of crazy. And one of the things that impressed me about the whole PocketHost thing, because you were on it all the time, and even when if there were issues, somehow it seemed like you were never asleep, because I would message you at like random times in the like 3 a.m. or whatever, and somehow you'd always pop up. I don't know how you're doing that, but
yeah, ever since like my late teens, I really only sleep about 3 hours a day. And I'll kind of like, I'll sleep for 3 to 4 solid hours, and then the rest is like just kind of little naps here and there and stuff. It's really hard for me to sleep for very long. So I just try to sleep really efficiently. And then I do leave the Discord thing on. So it's kind of funny. If I hear the Discord alerts in the middle of the night, I'll kind of listen for like a pattern or something, almost like not that anybody is a child on there or something, but it reminds me of listening to a baby cry. And it's like, what kind of cry is that? Are they just talking? Are they just like working out some programming issue, or is there an outage right now that I need to like?
By the frequency of the dings, you mean?
Yeah, there's something about it.
Yeah, you can tell if something is wrong. If you're getting too many dings, probably.
And there's like it's a certain pattern of dings too that like indicates distress, not just I'm chatting about a problem with somebody else. So it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny that I've learned that. But now somebody that guy on there, I don't know if I don't know, you're not like super into the daily chat on Discord anymore, but there's a guy on there. I think he might be over in Korea, but he set up a whole uptime monitor thing that will like send me text messages when there's an outage. So I'm trying to get better about that stuff.
Nice.
But yeah, you were kind of one of the early people that I met, and you were putting your stuff together. And I remember we had some kind of long chats about, architecture and just how to approach it. And I was impressed by your approach, especially because you were not using any frameworks or anything. You were just like doing raw JavaScript and HTML, and you got like this far with it. So can you tell that story a little bit? Because I want to hear it.
Okay, well, let's see. I'm not a trained programmer, right? I've learned everything I know from basically YouTube and talking to people like yourself. And so I started off this whole HEAVYPAINT thing, building it in a game engine called Godot, which is similar to Unity. And that didn't have any kind of framework for UI. Godot. It's an open source game engine.
I've always just called that Godot. Have you actually heard it pronounced somewhere?
It's
Godot.
There's both ways. Apparently, the correct way to pronounce it is Godot, because it's named after a play or something called Waiting for Godot. But then the
Oh,
creator of it calls it Godot, so everyone is kind of like confused. It's like the GIF thing, like nobody knows really. But
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
so I guess I was using that, and it has some UI stuff, but nothing reactive and nothing like as sophisticated as the web type stuff for UI. So I was having to do a lot of my own coding for the UI, just custom. Even they don't even have a Flexbox in there, so it was like extremely painful to even do like a gallery grid with scrolling or anything would take a lot of work. So that's what I was used to, and then I moved over to web eventually, and I was just like, oh, okay, I'll just do the same thing but in web, and I operated that way for a while, maybe a year and change, without any framework stuff. But then I don't know if I told you about this other thing I started using. Maybe this is maybe about a year ago now. The Van.js library.
oh yeah,
Um,
you were
so
telling me about
so
that.
so right now all of HEAVYPAINT is rebuilt using this thing, Van.js. It's a really tiny UI library. It's it's open source, written by this Google like senior developer guy, and it's amazing. It's so freaking good. It reminds me of, it's like PocketBase or PocketHost or HEAVYPAINT. They're all like really tiny little projects that I think are super focused and maybe not as popular as the big players, but I think they're really good. I think this is the best that I've used so far, compared
I've
to
used
like,
this before. When you told me about it, I didn't remember it, but I've totally used this before on something. I can't remember what the
yeah,
project was, but okay. So you really like kind of the programmatic rendering.
yep, yep. And it's all reactive, and it's like automatic reactivity too. Like you don't have to, because I know in React you have to explicitly do like use effect or whatever. If you want something to be reactive, you have to call it out as reactive and then like subscribe to it. And with
Yeah,
this one, you don't have to do any of that. It just automatically, if there's a reactive object or something in there, it will automatically subscribe to it, which I think is good because 99% of the time that's what you want. It does have like an ability to not subscribe to something that's reactive if you want, and I use that very rarely, but that's I think the default should be to subscribe, not the other way around, you know?
right, right.
And it's extremely modular too. You can like you just make a new function like that to create new components, and they all can nest inside of each other. And I
Yeah.
rebuilt my whole UI using this thing, and it's made the whole code base way smaller and simpler in general.
Okay, so like if we jump into some of your code, I'm just curious, like where can we see your UI
Um,
code?
so there should be one called, is there one
Route,
called UI
route,
somewhere?
router? Oh, UI.
UI,
Yeah.
yeah.
UI. Okay.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, so this is a ton of Van.js in here, yeah.
Oh, dude, look at this. This is cool. This is cool. So these are all your little components, basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah. This is great. This is oh my God, it goes. It goes and goes.
Yep,
Hang on.
yep. All
Hang
basically all the UI is in there.
Hold on. How many lines long is this? 6,000 lines, guys. This is he's got
Oh,
6,000
really? I
lines
didn't even realize
of UI.
that.
Wow. Yeah, this is cool though. Okay, so now are you, and this is the thing about your programming style. So you're going in and editing this file, right? This is not like assembled. You don't have like a web bundler doing this for you, right?
No,
This is just
there's no bundler. No bundler.
yeah, dude, that's
There's a bundler for the native versions because I also have this on iOS and Android native, through Capacitor. And
oh,
for
you
those,
do.
I need to use a bundler. Yeah, for Capacitor, I need to use a bundler, but it's that's only for the native platforms, so it doesn't really affect me too much.
Yeah, so are you
I don't have to
using
touch it.
Ionic or what are you
It's just it's just capacitor. I'm not using ionic. I'm just using capacitor.
Okay, so I actually didn't know that capacitor could be used without ionic. So what does it do? It just gives you like a web view, and then you do whatever you want with it?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh,
it just goes into a native web view.
Oh, right here, roll your own. That's it.
Yep. Yeah, you don't need ionic. It's great.
I already love this stream that we're doing together. The level of collaboration, because I'm working on a little web game right now, and it's actually getting really fun. It's a real time multiplayer kind of thing, and some of the feedback I'm getting is like, well, I wish it were an app. And this way, maybe I could take a lot of I used, instead of Van.js, I used Alpine.js, which is also pretty nice. But you're persuading me on my next project to try Van.js, and then ship an app, like ship a capacitor app. Because I didn't know it was that easy to just roll your own. Like the last time I looked at Ionic, it was so tightly integrated with capacitor. It didn't seem like something where I could just drop in my own thing. But that's awesome.
You do have to do a little bit of setup, but it's not as bad as, like you're used to doing all that stuff anyway for your self-hosting your own thing anyway. So you'll be fine with it. I will say on the note of web app versus app, because so the whole HEAVYPAINT thing, where I took the Godot engine one, the game engine one, and rebuilt it as a web app with the idea that, we have these things called progressive web apps. You can install a website basically and keep it, and it can technically be used offline as an app installed, and it even has a little icon that goes on your home screen. It looks exactly like an app. It functions exactly like an app. So I thought that's great, because I hate the App Store. It's really a pain in the butt to publish on the App Store. Because that's what I had been doing for years on the original HEAVYPAINT. And so I thought, okay, now I'm free from the App Store. But
no,
I think I ran that way for maybe a year with HEAVYPAINT. And I had to basically explain to everybody that was using the old HEAVYPAINT. They were like, where's the app? Where's the app? What's going on? Oh, is it a website now? What is this? And it's just confusing for people. They're just not, it doesn't compute for the general public that a website can also be an app.
So the whole progressive web app thing.
It ended up being like, okay, look, we kind of have to just bite the bullet. It's a huge pain in the butt. It took, months and months and months of work to convert it. Well, not that much, maybe like 2 months of work to convert it back into a native, but I think it was worth it in the end. The native version seemed to be doing a lot better, and it's more, I don't know, and there are some capabilities that you get from native through capacitor that are nice too, like file system. So
now when you're saying, so when you say native, you mean capacitor being the native, because when some people say native, they're saying like Swift or Objective-C or Java for Android. You're not going that deep though.
No.
Yeah.
Definitely not. Not as a one-person shop.
So before we started streaming, you said that your background was in art first. Is that right?
Yes. So I studied car design in school. So I wanted to, work for Honda or GM or something like that, drawing cars. And I ended up coming out here for an internship. I did some work for toys, doing toy cars for Hot Wheels. I ended up doing animation work for Disney and Warner Brothers and all these companies, basically designing vehicles for them, or sometimes sets or backgrounds or props and things like that, because of my industrial design / automotive design background. So it kind of worked. It fit in, and I did that for maybe since 2011 or so. So yeah, and then I started working on heavy paint maybe 5 years ago. So it's been um,
It's been a
some sort
journey.
of a jump. But I always loved engineering in general and programming. I was sort of dipping my toes into with the art career because you have to use a lot of programs to make the work, and 3D programs too. There's a lot of scripting and macros and little menus that I wanted. So I would like try to modify the programs that I was using um, to improve the UI or make new little scripts for them. And that's how I slowly got more into programming. But I never thought I would end up doing this, for my job, basically, for work.
Yeah, yeah. Now I don't know if you can see it yet, but I'm on Heavy Paint right now, and I'm just playing around with the canvas. And I've always wanted to talk to you because, like, to me, this is such a unique art tool. I've never seen this kind of thing where it's like it's smearing a bunch of different lines at the same time, right? Like when I think about it, like an art program, I think about something more like Photoshop, right? And so what's the inspiration? I don't even know what this kind of art style is called. Like, start me from the beginning. How did you get here?
Well, I was doing a lot of traditional painting here in LA. We would go out on the weekends with this group and go painting, um, just landscape painting outside. And we were using this medium called gouache, which kind of looks like those brushstrokes there, but it's kind of
Hmm.
nice because there's a little bit of color variation in the paint usually if you don't mix the paints completely uniform and you just put down a stroke, you'll have a little bit of weird variations in the colors.
Yeah.
So I thought that was nice. I always like that. I always like kind of noise and crunch or
Hmm.
juice, I guess you could call it. Just any kind of weird, glitchy randomness, basically. We need more randomness in digital art, I think, because, if you just put down a mark and it's extremely perfect and uniform and there's nothing happening, then it doesn't feel like visceral enough, you want to have something weird happening at least.
Yeah. So you intentionally built the noise into this. Now, I think it's interesting that when you first land on a blank canvas, you have it set to this oil painting tool that's like a really wide, it's a wide brush, right? Um,
Mhm.
is there like a real world like analogous thing? Like, is this an art style that you might see somewhere?
Um, well, I mean, I guess the idea is I don't want people to be too timid when they use it. Like you just went in and started filling up, like making these really thick, giant strokes and,
Yeah.
creating a thing that's big and bold. So I want you to kind of not be there with a tiny little pencil, like just doing little baby marks. I want you to do big stuff first. And that's kind of how a lot of painting teachers start the students out. You want to start off big and move smaller as you go, so you don't get caught up in the details too much. So
Yeah.
you get your big proportions, your big shapes, your big picture, and kind of go down from there. But yeah, I don't know if there's an art style. I could show you some of the type of stuff that I was working on too that I guess has an influence, um, because a lot of the team that I worked with was always doing these very graphic kind of paintings where everything was very opaque and solid. That's another thing about digital art that I kind of believe that is that opacity should not be in the front of a painting program, in my opinion, because
Interesting.
it sort of makes it so that you're never putting down the color that you chose, if that makes sense. You're putting down like a washy version of that color mixed with whatever's underneath it. So
Yeah. Right.
it is kind of nice to pick a color and put it down, and it's exactly that color. Sounds pretty simple, but for some reason, it's just I don't know why, but every program basically has opacity as their first class UI. It's always size and opacity. Um, and so I just wanted to make opacity secondary so that you're not changing it all the time. And it kind of encouraged you to be bold again so that you're putting down solid colors.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I dig it. I'm
Thanks.
making one of my famous sunsets right now. Let's see if I can do it. I'm figuring out how these tools work.
Nice.
So let's see here. You know what this reminds me of is like when you go to the wine and canvas kind of deals.
Oh yeah. I've never been to one of those, but yes, I know what you mean. How are they? Have you gone to one?
Yeah. I have one on on my door. One that I painted like a prismatic kind of painting, and it was pretty cool because like the teacher she had kind of like something in mind, but she was also very open to you just like doing whatever struck you. So so that's kind of what I did is I started out with the inspiration that she gave us, and then kind of went my own direction with it. But I live in this high-rise condo building, and all the doors look the same on every floor. So it's my way of like, if I'm stumbling home tired one night, I don't walk into the wrong house.
Yeah,
because I have this really unique
3 hours
painting.
of sleep. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is interesting, man. Yeah, and this is so different from like other painting tools, or somebody like me who's I'm not a painter at all. So when I think of art programs, my mind goes straight to Photoshop, or I use Pixelmator. And yeah, opacity is a big part of my life. Actually, I'm always trying to like fade things together that way, and yeah. So it's interesting that you say that. Do you have some of your work online?
Yeah, if you go to heavypoly.com, I have some. Also on Instagram, I have some. But Heavy Poly was like, this is all my professional work that I was doing in animation for a long time. And it was a lot of 3D stuff too. But usually, and a lot of drawing too. So the painting stuff actually came along later for me. I have some painting stuff also on Instagram. If you go on to Heavy Poly on Instagram, that's my stuff. So I post a lot of paintings there.
Let's see.
But yeah, this month for January we do this thing called Heavy Jan every year. So I'll do like 31 days of painting with everybody. So we're almost done with Heavy Jan, but
and these are all heavy paints that I'm looking at right here.
Yeah. These ones are mine.
Hold on, you did these in your art tool? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah. What else would I be using,
dude? This is great. Like, this is so detailed here. This cup and these faces, everything. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, I spent my whole life doing this stuff, so
this is amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Wow. You're making me want to make sure PocketHost stays up and running very reliably, because I bet people have a lot of fun on this.
Yeah, I think they do. I think they like it.
I mean, I'm trying to wrap my head around, like, to me this seems like a new approach to painting. And that's why I was asking if this like style had a name or something, like what what was it about, say, Photoshop or something, where you were like, I can't do what I want to do. I have to build my own tool.
Well, I don't want to knock on Photoshop, but it's even in the name. It's made for photos. So, and then kind of it was one of the earliest programs that you could do any kind of digital imagery. So they just kind of modified it so that painters could use it if they really, really wanted to, but it's not really designed for that. So there's a lot of little tiny things that you can do to sort of optimize the UI for painting. Um, One example maybe is yeah, the opacity thing. Like I said, one thing is the HSV sliders in Heavy Paint also use this newer color model where they, so if you click on the color three dots on next to the color box and then go to HSB,
Mm-hmm.
and well, basically normal HSB will, when you change hue, it will actually also change the value as you change the hue. So for example, if you're on blue, since blue is a darker, inherently dark color, the value kind of dips down low, even though you're only changing the hue.
Hmm.
So, and then when you change the hue to yellow, it just becomes brighter all of a sudden, just because yellow is brighter than blue. So, what this color model here does is it compensates for that, and it tries to keep the value or the brightness consistent no matter what hue you're on or what saturation you're on. So, it's kind of like, so you don't have to juggle them all around manually, um, which is
Yeah.
something that a lot of programs have the old model where it's kind of more all over the place. But I can also show you some of the work that we were doing, or one of the influences for me, or big influences, was one of my bosses named Alberto Mielgo. So if you look up Alberto Mielgo,
Mielgo, right here,
I
Spanish
yeah,
director.
that one. So he's got all these paintings that are very flat and graphic, and he would always he's sort of the one that would kind of turn me on to painting with no opacity, because that's he would kind of show us how he wanted stuff to go, and he paints traditionally as well. He's like a genius, but yeah, so everything is very opaque. Everything, you're just slightly changing your hue, your values, and a lot of times he paints with only four colors as well. He'll use like a CMYK color palette,
Interesting.
um, which is, yeah, you see a little bit of cyan and magenta happening a lot. But yeah, so I kind of learned digital painting partially through working with Alberto, and he was all about that, you know, full opacity, put the exact color down that you want, and just be very direct and bold with all your mark making,
Yeah.
which I liked a lot. Because before I was painting with the opacity, and my stuff would come out very mushy a lot of times, and it looks a little bit more like watercolor then, where it's like washes of paint mixing into together. But painting with this solid style was really fun, and I kind of wanted Heavy Paint to encourage that as well.
This is so interesting to me, because you don't have you didn't come up as a programmer, you came up as an artist, and you had an idea for something that you wanted to see, and you learned enough programming to make it happen. And that's like a great founder story right there. I think that's who's attracted to PocketBase in general is, makers. Like, there's about 1,500 members on Discord, and I would say overall the programming skill level is, these are probably not professional developers, many of them, and if they are, I just think it's pretty rare that I come across a professional. Like, I've been in a lot of different communities. I've been in like the Microsoft.NET community. I've been in PHP. I've been in, what am I thinking of? Oh, like, Python, Node.js. I've all these different technologies that have some kind of web stack, or, even the iOS and Android crowd, right? So I've been in a lot of different communities, and I would say PocketBase is attracting who are to me the most promising types of people, because they aren't programmers by trade necessarily. They're seeing PocketBase as a way where their idea is suddenly approachable. And they're like, I think I can do this. PocketBase looks solid enough and makes enough sense to me. I bet I could build some kind of front end if I even know what that word means. I bet I could build, a website that talks to PocketBase and kind of like realizes my vision in some sort of basic form. And that's what I see people doing with PocketBase, or at least as far as PocketHost is concerned. Like the people who come to PocketHost are, they're not looking to focus their expertise on programming and technology necessarily. They're wanting to do enough of it to get their idea out there.
Yeah,
exactly. And that's, I think there are a lot of, from the more traditional programming community or programming background, they would look at your approach and say like, well, it's incomplete, or it's whatever, it's not following best practices, because you didn't use a framework, and you don't even have a bundler until recently, and like all of these sort of things where maybe more experienced programmers have decided that it's absolutely necessary to have, and you don't have, and yet you've built this whole thing. I see that from a different perspective. My perspective is I like it when people get rid of as much of the tech stack as they can.
So me too.
So I'm super about like slimming things down and making it as streamlined as possible and as non-technical as possible. Even for me, I mean, I've been programming since I was 10 years old. That's like, I'm 48 now. And so that's whatever, 38 years I've been programming, and I'm still trying to eliminate as much of it as possible in favor of something that's pragmatic and something that gets things done quickly, where you can start small and build. Like a lot of these frameworks, you install them and it's already dozens of files, and you haven't even built anything yet, And back in the day, it used to be you could just start with a single PHP file and build out from there. And I think that's what you achieved with HEAVYPAINT, is you started, like, I'm imagining from an empty text editor window, and you just started making HTML and wiring it up with JavaScript, and now here you are. So
yeah. I won't say that I got it on my first try, though, because I did try building HEAVYPAINT. Well, I have tried maybe 10 times, all with different tech stacks and different frameworks and different. I've tried Flutter, I've tried React Native, I've tried Godot, I've tried um, Rust. I tried like every possible thing that I could think of that had cross-platform support.
Yeah.
And then this is just what I ended up on because it felt the most comfortable to me. So yeah, I'm not saying that uh, I just stumbled. Well, I did stumble into it, but it took me like a lot of stumbling to get to settle on this.
That's a good part of the story for people to hear too, is, it wasn't just an automatic victory. You iterated through many things. And well, I mean, that's how I got to PocketBase and PocketHost myself. I was trying to build an app and I wasn't super happy with the Firebase backend that I had built. I wasn't super happy with the Supabase backend that I had built. I already knew that I wouldn't be happy with some of the other technologies that I had used on previous projects. And so, the project was kind of stalled. And then I found PocketBase and I was like, okay, wait, this is something now. Now I feel like I have the simplicity that I need to move forward, because like you said, I'm only one person as well. And then that whole project motivated me to create PocketHost, and then PocketHost kind of took over as the main project. But I like building apps. I didn't think about, I'm going to build a hosting platform for everybody. I just thought, like, I need this to keep things simple for me. And then it got it kind of took on a life of its own.
So you don't consider PocketHost to be an app or like a product that you know what I mean? You don't consider it as
no, to me it's scaffolding, like I want to build apps. And so PocketHost is kind of a means to an end. I guess PocketBase is a means to an end as well. And yeah, I mean, it's become its own project for sure. But I'm just, when I think about PocketHost, it doesn't feel it doesn't feel like the end goal for me. My goal is to build apps, and PocketHost facilitates that. And so it's been kind of fun lately because I've been able actually to PocketHost is kind of mature and stable enough now that I actually have time to go back and make apps. And it's been fun to try to build an app on the PocketHost platform. And I also have another framework called PocketPages, which is my attempt to really simplify web front ends and APIs, and it's a bunch of other stuff. But I use those tools as a way to build my apps. And so I'll build the app and I'll get to a point where I get stuck on something, and then I'll dive back into the tool and improve the tool, and then I'll keep building the app and then go back and improve the tool again. And so it's kind of been this back and forth thing. So to me, PocketHost is a byproduct of the things I really want to build, but oftentimes those meet success in the marketplace, I guess, because it turns out other people have the same kind of thinking that I do, which is, I don't want to host PocketBase. That seems really complicated, trying to like manage a server on my own. Not just complicated, but like far removed from, like your goal is to make a killer painting app, and hosting is kind of a necessary part of it, but sort of the less time you can spend on hosting, the better off you are, because you'll be able to put more of the time into actually creating the thing that comes from your unique perspective, So, so I think sometimes the byproducts end up being, that's what PocketBase was. I don't know if you knew this, but Ghani has some product, and PocketBase is the back end that he built for his own product.
That's cool.
And now PocketBase is like, at least in the developer community, it's super popular, maybe even eclipsing the whatever his product is. I don't even know what his product is.
I can see that happening. It seems to be it happens a lot, right? Like you just have some other problem that you're working on, and you just like, oh, let me get rid of this annoying side problem, but then it becomes that's the same annoying side problem that everyone else has. One thing I was thinking about in the course of doing this one is that the syncing is such a pain in the ass. So I feel like that would be a good side project that people could actually use, having local first syncing for any web-based project would be really cool. There are a few that have it that do that, like DexiDB, and I think CouchDB does that, but something like that would be really useful, because I've spent like months and months and months on stupid syncing stuff that I wish I didn't have to. I wish I could have just got one off the shelf.
So let's talk more about that, though, because you have kind of a unique constraint that a lot of web apps kind of skip, which is you want offline support and you want it to sync between different devices.
Yes.
Yeah. And we've talked about that like at a technical level, but take us through that story a little bit.
So artists don't want to be online all the time. A lot of times they're painting on an airplane or on a train or on a mountain or in their underground submarine lair or wherever they are. For some reason, artists just never have internet access. I don't know why, but that's just how we are. And so that's always that's kind of a given that you're not always going to have internet. And so yeah, everything had to be offline first. Also for the progressive web app, it had to be offline first anyway. And then yeah, the syncing is just nice because it's annoying to, transfer stuff between devices. And it's just a lot harder than I thought it would be. I was like, I just have to copy Dropbox, but it turns out that's kind of difficult to do.
Yeah, totally.
You have to, make a whole Dropbox just for your little app. But yeah, so the past, I was doing it where each time you auto save the canvas, it would resave the entire canvas and then sync that up and check with the server which one is newer, the local one or the remote one. But in the past couple months, I've been rewriting it so that it only does incremental saves now. So it only saves the stuff that's since the last time we saved. So it's a lot more efficient that way. And it also kind of simplifies the syncing logic because you're only adding ever. You're never really subtracting because, it's just the history keeps going and going and going. You're never going backwards, basically. You can undo, but that's still an additional command.
Yeah.
Even when you're undoing. So it's basically a mutable history of everything. And I was kind of inspired by GitHub, how GitHub works, where, you basically can't delete your own, you can always go back in time, which I think is great. And I feel like art would really benefit from that too. So I'm trying to, follow that philosophy of GitHub.
Yeah, little change sets.
like little branches too, so you can even go back in time, have a branch, do like draw different versions of the same painting, and then switch between different branches whenever you want, and kind of jump around the history with full control that way.
Do you think you would use that?
Yeah, I am using it already. It's in.
Like you branch off and make different versions of like base. You have like a base painting, and then you branch off and do different stuff.
I guess I haven't really done it much, but I guess you could if you wanted to have like a base character and then maybe have different branches with different, costumes or different facial expressions or something, like a modular kind of a painting.
Yeah. Interesting. Interesting. So, do you have, just like talking about founders and business and that kind of stuff, is there like a premium? I remember, see, you're the one who taught me that lemon squeezy existed. I don't know if you know that, but
oh yeah,
you were using lemon squeezy, and then I was like, what's that? And now I've been using it for all of my stuff, and they're great because they collect taxes and remit taxes all around the world and that kind of stuff. So are you still using that for you, or what's the kind of like, is there like a premium take to this thing?
Yeah, I'm still using lemon squeezy. So if you go in, it's free. You can get the full version too. It's basically like the free one is a trial, pretty much, and then I think once you make an account, you can get the full version, which has everything. And then I use Lemon Squeezy for the web sales if they're through the website, and then on native platforms, I'm using this thing called Revenue Cat, which so it'll aggregate between iOS and Android, and they take a very small percentage as well. I think it's like 3% or something like that, but it's fine.
So you're not hit with that 30% App Store fee thing?
No, you are. It's still the same App Store wise. It's just that it is gives you kind of like a unified like their webhooks, the App Store and the Google webhooks go through Revenue Cat, so I only have to deal with one source of truth for native. I think you can also hook it up with Stripe, but I haven't done that because I'm using Lemon Squeezy. But it would be nice to have everything like all in one spot.
Yeah,
Revenue Cat's good.
That's cool. So
I have the
people. I'm sorry, people. If they want to like save their paintings and have the whole undo history and all of that's the premium stuff.
No, they get that even. Okay, so there's a full version, which is actually only like $5 right now because we're doing the heavy gen thing. But that you basically get full offline functionality. Like you can do everything offline, as many canvases as you want, all the full history, the autosave system, blah blah blah. The only option is you can get the sync if you want, and that will sync between different devices and basically cloud storage, which is also pretty cheap. I have it like it's like $3 a month or $20 a year right now. So yeah, I'm still not like 100% on pricing. I'm playing around like, well, it's been this way for the past maybe half a year or so. I also did have a time where it was subscription only, but I found out that a lot of artists did not like that at all. So I think this one time and keeping the price pretty low is working out pretty good.
Yeah.
And it also helps just in terms of just because it's so cheap and so accessible, a lot more people can use it, which I think is good. Just getting it in more hands is nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough to figure out like what sort of pricing strategy works. I went through a lot of iterations of some kind of freemium model for PocketHost, and then one day I saw a video. I think I was probably on X or something like that, but saw this video of this guy talking about a hard paywall. And I'm not saying this is right for you, by the way, but the idea of a hard paywall is to make them assess the value of the product or service before they get into it. So you can still do a 7-day free trial or 30 days or however long you want to do, but you have the value conversation up front. And he was saying, freemium is broken, and hard paywall is the way to go. So anyway, I was listening to the guy's video and stuff, and a lot of it resonated with my situation at PocketHost, which is people come in and they sign up for a free account, and I didn't really have like much of an upsell for them because I don't want to get into like utility computing where things are metered and I'm charging, pennies per hour or per gigabyte or whatever. Like that, to me, that's more of an unmanaged hosting provider type of situation. And PocketHost is supposed to be managed. It's supposed to be just forget all that stuff. Just have a place where you can host it and don't worry about bandwidth. Don't worry about storage. That's the kind of service that I want. So again, I'm coming at this from like, what do I want to see in the world? Well, I would love a service where I don't have to worry about, bandwidth overages and different charges and things like that, like a metered service. So I've been really resistant to converting over to that, even though that's the thing people recognize and look for when they see the word host. They're like, oh, it's a hosting provider. Let me go see their...
So is that what a lot of people are ringing up and requesting for in terms of payment? Like they want that?
They're asking why it doesn't look like that. Yeah, because every other hosting provider they go to, it's
what they're expecting. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and then they come to PocketHost and it's like, nope, it's just unlimited fair use, and we'll have a conversation with you if it gets out of hand. But otherwise, I don't want to meter it. I don't want to bill you that way. And so, we're not doing that. But then as a result, now what do I sell them? So we were doing like custom domains. Like if you wanted to upgrade, you could get a custom domain. But that's kind of like, nobody really needs your end users aren't going to see the backend URL that you're hitting. So most users, I think, wouldn't add any value for your users necessarily. It might look a little cleaner, but it wasn't really enough to get people to contribute.
I guess my question is, how many people are asking for this metered payment, or how common is it?
I would say it's probably been one of the most frequently discussed things. Like when we discuss pricing, people say like, well, shouldn't that be the model? Is just metered everything? And I think that is what they're expecting to see, and how they're expecting to compare the service to another service, like Railway or something, right? They want to know like, how many gigabytes of storage do I get? What's on the free tier?
Well, how hard would it be to do an A/B test, or just have it as an option? Like keep the current payment structure and also have this metered option. if they want it, and just to see how
Yeah.
people react or like what they even choose.
Yeah, potentially. It would take some coding because I'd have to actually, code in like metrics for everything, like how many API requests, how much bandwidth is going in and out,
Yeah.
storage, making the reporting, tracking stuff like tracking resource usage can get complicated. So I'd have to think of sort of like an easy approach where I could offer it to people that way. But right now I'm just doing it on a per instance basis instead. So like if you're just running one instance, that's I think it's $5 an instance, and then up to once you're running 5 instances and paying $25 a month, I just cap it at that. You can have as many instances as you want after that. And then a lot of people have come in, and I think it's really just like genuinely because they want to see the service thrive. They've done those lifetime deals, where they pay a few $100s up front, and then they have unlimited everything in perpetuity. And that has been actually the most popular thing of all. People like the lifetime deal because then they get out of the subscription game.
Yeah, I found that also with my thing, just intense like knee-jerk reaction against subscriptions in general. People are just really sick of them, and if you do offer it, it's nice if it's like an option, but then you have other options too, because it does make sense for in some cases, if you don't want to. The tricky thing about all this is that if you look back at Photoshop or whatever traditional programs back in the day, Photoshop used to cost like $700, $800 to buy, or any of the 3D programs that I was using were like, I paid actually $1,500 to buy the thing to use it. And people don't realize how much work goes into these things. And I'm like making, not that much, much less than I would have been making if I just stuck with my animation job. But that's the issue with subscriptions now, is like it's everything is all screwed up. All the expectations are screwed up. Because if I go and say, oh, look, here's my program, it costs like $500, everyone will be like, no.
Did you try a lifetime deal?
I did, yeah. I mean, well, right now it is a lifetime deal. The full version is $5 lifetime. It's super cheap.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And that's kind of going off of, again, the expectations of the market, of people, because yes, back in the day Photoshop was an $800 program, but nowadays you can get Procreate or Infinite Painter or any of these top tier painting programs are like between $7 and $10, or maybe whatever. So on the app stores, that's another thing. The app stores made everything, all the prices way lower now. So yeah, it's just the expectations are different for technology pricing, and I feel like for me, I'm more on the side of I just want to make the thing really good, and whatever people are asking for in terms of pricing, I'm just gonna give them what they want. It's fine. I don't care. Just you take the thing, use it, enjoy it. I just want to focus on making the thing good. And if it's good enough, enough people will buy it, and it'll be fine. I'm not gonna lose. I actually think I'm making more now with the lower price than I was with the higher prices and the subscription only before, just because I think this is just what people were expecting, and it makes more sense for them.
Yeah.
So it's software, so it's not like it's the same. We're not putting in physical materials into the thing, I guess. But I don't know. It's tricky. It's tricky because the amount of work that goes into it is insane, and I don't think it comes across because you look at the website and it's like, oh, it's a cute little painting app. That's a fun little project, but it's 5 years of work, like nonstop work. I've
Yeah.
gazillions of hours.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, it's your own work of art, and you've put your blood, sweat, and tears into it, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that sentiment's probably a good place for us to close out. What you said about just wanting to make it the best it can be, and just fostering along the development of that journey. I like that sentiment a lot, and I think there are a lot of us in the PocketBase community who feel that way. We want to make something. We want to put something out into the world that we would like to see, and we'd like it to help other people, and kind of however those two meet is fine. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to turn into a hugely successful thing. Well, depending on how you define success, because I'm hearing you define success as there seems to be an element of contentment in there for you, that this is successful if you're finding contentment creating it and people are finding contentment using it. And then if you can somehow make the money meet in the middle somewhere, that feels good to you. Is that right?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a positive thing that people enjoy. I enjoy working on it. I'm able to survive off of it and do it full time. So, I mean, doesn't get better than that, I think. I'm happy.
That's super cool, man. You're ahead of me. If I had to live off of PocketHost, I don't think that would be very comfortable right now. So, but that's part of the reason why. What's that?
I wouldn't say I'm okay. I will say it's not fully comfortable living off of just the project, but enough that I feel safe continuing to do it.
Yeah, and that is better. That is better than the position I'm in. But I kept PocketHost completely free for a few years at least. I think maybe almost 3 years, maybe something like that, where just kind of anybody could come use an instance. And I think that was good. I think that was the right path at the time, because it got people trying it. I think it invited people into the PocketBase community who might otherwise have really struggled to try to. I mean, well, I would read the stories. I would read the stories on Ghani's discussion forum of people trying to stand up a PocketBase server and just like, having a tough time with it. And it's like, okay, well, here's something I can do to contribute to the community, and I think it helps people. And so it was good, just purely free for a long time, and now I think it makes more sense to charge something because it does have overhead, but I also want people to be able to try as many different little projects as they want, because I think sometimes that's how founders succeed, is they iterate through completely different app ideas. There's one guy, some kid in India, his app went viral, and it's on PocketHost. And I'm trying to get him on the stream. I don't know. I'm not really sure how good his spoken English is, so it might be a little bit tough. But yeah, like he just somehow it got picked up by some publications or something, and it went crazy, and he was having this scaling issue where so many people were hitting it that it kept crashing. And he was like, I gotta get it off of PocketHost, and I gotta put it onto my own, dedicated server. And he was talking to me about it. And I love having these kind of conversations, the same kind I have with you, just about, like how to architect the app or whatever. And I was telling him, that sounds weird to me. Like PocketHost has a really big server. It would surprise me if moving it helped at all, because I'm looking at our CPU usage and things like that, and you're not really taxing our resources. So I think there's something else going on here, some other reason why your app is slowing down. And we went through it and everything, and made a few changes that totally improved the performance of his app. And I love stories like that. He's just I think he's like 17 or 18 years old.
Nice.
And he just found himself with this viral app randomly. So there are people out there like you and like that guy who are building things that are just really every person is uniquely positioned to build the app that they understand. And you built this thing and you couldn't have built it unless you understood everything that you understand about digital art and traditional art, painting, everything. All of your knowledge has gone into this. And this is the kind of stuff
it's like writing your first book or something. If you were an author, you have all your life experiences just go into the one little project. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, totally. Well, thanks for walking me through everything. You're the first guest I've had on this, so
cool.
It's gonna be fun. There are a couple other people coming on, and it's gonna be fun to hear their stories too. But we should check back in a while, 6 months, 12 months kind of thing, and see what's new or what's happening. Or, just if you do have something new going on and you want to jump in and tell people about it, just hit me up.
All right. Yeah. I'm excited to see the next guests that come on too. I've been curious about who is lurking in the PocketHost clouds. Yeah.
Yeah, mostly they come into my DMs with, some kind of question that tells me oh, okay, you're really getting some traction of some kind. So this is kind of an interesting thing. I know we just said we were going to go, but I've been watching over the last about 3 years with PocketBase. I've been watching the questions evolve. The types of questions that people are asking are getting closer and closer and closer to production level, production quality apps that are, out there, that have actual user bases, and, they have some sort of traction, and they've built up an audience. At first the questions were very much like hobbyist questions. Just things like, how do I filter on this column, or, I can't get the path name right on my local computer, just things like that. And now the questions are more along the lines of hey, every time more than 500 people show up, I see this problem happen, and I'm trying to figure out what to do about it. And it's okay, the ecosystem is, the ecosystem is growing up. So that's been kind of fun to watch. And I've been seeing the problems that PocketHost has are problems that you only see at scale as well. Sometimes I pull this up. We can see what it is right now. If I go to PocketHost, I have a secret little stats page that I can get to. So right now we've got almost 11,000 free subscribers, almost 15,000 total instances. But the interesting part is there have been 1,000 unique instances run in the last 24 hours. And even in the last hour, there have been 300 instances. So that means 300 unique instances have been hit at least once in the last hour. And then we have not that many subscribers yet because I just converted over to the paywall, but we've got, almost 100 founders, 120 flounders, and then we've got some, nice. Monthly people, and the monthly people are important.
That's good. Didn't you just convert that over recently too?
Yeah. Like if you go into Discord and you go into this channel called Stream, you can actually scroll through. Like it says everybody who signed up. So like on the 21st, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people signed up.
That's great. You don't feel like safe with that?
No? In terms of income, like the ID choppers is $5 a month. The lifetime deals are, I think, $300 or $350 right now, something like that. So I don't know. It's probably pulling in. Well, I mean, all of this has changed within the last 10 days. Like if you go back to,
this is still the very, very first bit of it. That's super promising.
Yeah, like if you go back to like January or December, you'll see a very different pattern. Like almost no signups. Like a lot of times days would go by with no signups. Here we had like a giant, on December 2nd, we had this like Black Friday thing happening. So there were a bunch of lifetimes that signed up there. But yeah, like now we're getting, probably between like 3 to 7 signups of some kind per day. And it seems like every day we're selling at least one LTD. So,
Dude, that's awesome.
That's a good amount.
And that's the first month. Congrats.
This is the first. Well, and this is where I'm trying to build up the Pocket-Based live stream. I'm hoping that I can reach developers who don't know anything about Pocket-Based. Really, they're just like people like you, or like other people who are coming from walks of life where maybe web design or software isn't their first or strongest area, but they have something that they want to get out there, and they're willing to do the legwork if they can learn how to do it. I'd like to turn this channel into giving people who are starting out like you were some kind of path where they can pick up a bunch of different episodes and like watch different little techniques and approaches and tutorials. And then
it'd be like a cool little show and tell for nerds with their own little DIY projects.
Yeah, exactly. And then it can be, oh, by the way, there's PocketHost over here. If you don't want to try to host this yourself, like that's where I'm hosting all of these projects that I'm showing you. And so maybe
I think it might be cool too to like, because one thing I want to say thanks to you for helping me so much with on DMs on Discord, because like you said, I'm not a programmer. I was learning as I go with this web thing, and learning about databases, learning how to structure things, architecting. And that stuff was so valuable to me and helpful. And I feel like I still have a lot to learn, but I'm a lot farther along than when I started. And I wonder if that kind of a thing, if you could do that on a stream with like, the most common questions I get from people that are on Discord, and like how to do the basics of, structuring things efficiently so that you don't get a million requests on your thing, or you're like not downloading all the files when you don't need to, or silly things like that all the beginners are doing, or just that kind of stuff was the that was so cool that you were helping me out on those things, and that you do it for other people too, and that's kind of the reason why I like to stick with these smaller kind of projects too, where it's one guy. It's you. I know I've talked to you. I can I know you're a person. You're a real person. You're helpful. You're cool. And Same thing with these other projects. I've been able to interact with Ghani for PocketBase a few times, and he's a grumpy person, but he is also very helpful, and he's
He got
extremely
so mad
smart.
at
And
me.
oh yeah, what happened?
He got so pissed at me because, okay, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but yeah, he does. Number one, I don't know if English is his first language, so sometimes I think the phrasing that he chooses is like offensive to me as a native, American English speaker, but maybe he doesn't really like mean it that way. But also I think he might be grumpy at times. I think he's overwhelmed with like just people asking him questions.
I've noticed that seems to happen a lot with open source projects when it's a successful open source project.
Yeah.
Especially if it's just one or a few guys and they have to do everything and they're being asked the same questions over and over, or you just can't, as one person, do everything. So it's natural. Like a lot of the maintainers or whoever is always going to be grumpy on the open source projects.
I try really hard to be inviting to people because I remember like having questions and not knowing even like what to ask, let alone like who or how or where to ask it. So I think people show up in Discord and, for them, it's the first time. And for some of us, it's the 1,000th time, but yeah. I try to remember that the only time I get grumpy is if it begins to feel like I've had a few people come into Discord basically wanting like advice for something that they didn't really plan on sharing with anybody. Like it wasn't an open source project, but they were asking me all kinds of questions about I suppose I'm talking specifically about people wanting to start Pocket-based hosting services and coming to me and asking how to do it, and then I find out that they're not actually doing an open source project.
Yeah, that's a little awkward, huh?
That kind of thing, I get a little grumpy about that.
Let's steal your work and also charge other people money for it.
Yeah, and also not share. Well, and by the way, they could take the open source PocketHost project and they could start up a competing paid service. Like that's fine. I wouldn't get too grumpy about that. I just there's something about when people are siphoning value out of the generosity of open source contributors and then they're not sharing it in turn. That feels a little strange to me, but I also don't like, I really don't mind. Like people come and ask me questions all the time for just like some little private app they're building, and like that feels fine to me. So I think there's a certain flavor of it.
The thing is they're trying to make a direct kind of competitor / ripoff of your thing, right?
Maybe it's that. Yeah. Maybe it's just kind of like, come on. Like but for the most part, if people are coming in and they're like, hey, I want to build an app or something, and I have these questions, like I love talking to people about that kind of stuff. Just like, I mean, you and I have had some really good DMs about just optimizing this or that, and a lot of times, because I've had a lot of programming experience, I find that when people are stuck, they actually got stuck a few steps earlier. They're stuck on. It seems like they're stuck on the current step, but I actually encourage them, like, wait a minute, back up. Why are we even here? Like explain to me how we got here, and maybe there's a decision back there we could have made differently. And I'd say like the majority of the kind of help I give people is in that category of like, oh yeah, you took a wrong turn a few steps ago, but it's fixable. And you'll be in a much better track if you go back and do that. And I think that probably happened to us once or twice where, you found yourself kind of like painted into a corner, and it was like, you can just go back and do
You're
this
like,
other thing.
why are you even looking at that corner? Why are you in that corner in the first place?
Yeah.
Totally.
But I totally remember having all of those experiences. So I feel really open to helping people. I like to help people, and I think I like to see people learn and like improve themselves and the thing they're working on. Like I like to see that kind of growth. Like that makes me happy, and that makes my day. So whenever that happens with somebody on Discord, I'm just like, hell yeah. Hopefully I can figure out a way to pull this all together that generates some revenue and helps people get their ideas out there. And I'm just so happy that you were able to do that, and that I was able to play a little role in getting you started. Because I mean, look at it now. It's awesome. And now I have to go try Van.js because you've convinced me to look at it again.
If you have any Van.js questions, let me know, because I think I'm turned to concerning how much of a fanboy I am of Van. So if you need anything, I'll be there.
I appreciate that. I will definitely hit you up. Okay, hold on one second here. I'm going to stop the stream